Welcome to the channel. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm not quite sure I remember what I was supposed to do other than talk to you guys and put some photos up and wave my camera around a little bit. So it's been a little while. I can only apologise for that. Life sometimes gets in the way, doesn't it? And it's just it's been easier just to go out and do photography rather than try and do videos on top of everything else. So not really an excuse, but hopefully going forward I'll start to try and do some videos again for you guys. Certainly thank you to all of those of you who have messaged or commented saying, when are you going to do a video, when are you going to do a video? Well, I'm attempting to do a video here today. So obviously the video title is Aurora, and as you can see it's broad daylight, so clearly we're not out shooting Aurora at the moment. So I'm not here to shoot photos today, I'm here to talk about photos that I've previously taken, specifically the incredible Aurora that we had on the 10th of May 2024. And if you're watching this video on the day it's come out, then today is actually the first anniversary of that incredible Aurora experience. Now, just to give a little bit of background to how I happened to be out here shoot the Aurora, I was actually out at Cape Cornwall trying out my new to me camera. Long-time subscribers, viewers of my videos will know that I normally shoot with a Canon 6D Mark II. Well, in April 2024, I killed it. I tried to get it repaired, I sent it away, they came back saying it wasn't economically viable. So I picked up a new camera, the Canon EOS R, my first ever mirrorless camera, which I've been shooting with ever since. It's got an EF adapter on it to take my EF lenses, because normally the native fitting is an RF lens, but these EF lenses work absolutely fantastically on this camera with the adapter. So I'd been out at Cape Cornwall, Priest's Cove specifically, which is just the other side of Cape Cornwall, shooting with the camera, just having to play with it, practicing. Walked back up to the car park as it was getting dark, and I got an Aurora alert. Fantastic. Exactly what I wanted. I had no idea at that point what actually lay ahead that night. But from the car park over at Cape Cornwall, looking across to my right hand side, I could see the remains of the building at the Kenajak Cliff Castle, and I thought, let's go and give that a go. So I headed from Cape Cornwall across to Batalic, and I walked out here. You'll have seen part of that on the video to begin with. I came past West Wheel Owls, Wheel Edward, walked up the path here to the Kenajak Cliff Castle, and in the dark attempted to find myself some kind of composition that incorporated the building that's actually off to my right hand side, your left, which we'll have a look at in just a moment. And yeah, what transpired that night was just absolutely incredible. And completely unexpected. So what I think I'll do is I'll show you the composition that I started with that night, which means we've got to go down the path a little bit, but I'll rearrange all of that, that's not a problem. So we'll have a look at that composition, and then once I've talked about that a little bit, I'll show you the photos that I shot on that particular evening. So just up here we have the remains of a building at the Kenajak Cliff Castle overlooking Cape Cornwall. Cape Cornwall is actually behind you now. And like I said, from the car park over at Cape Cornwall, I could see this building silhouetted against the darkening sky, and I thought that looks like it could make quite a nice composition for an Aurora. So I wandered over here. As I said, parked over at Batalic there, walked out, as you've seen already on the video, and came down the path that comes down the side here to this position, pretty much. I mean, give or take a metre or so in either direction with the undergrowth now and what have you, but pretty much in this position. One of the things I had to consider is that actually just down there to my left, which is your right, obviously there are some buildings, and there was a little bit of light coming from there, so I was trying to work the composition to make sure that I wasn't getting those buildings in the image. I just wanted this building in itself. Now, last year, this patch of ground you can see here actually was full of beautiful flowering gorse, which this year it looks quite dead. It's nothing like the same, but it was full of beautiful yellow gorse here, and it just looked incredible here. So I set this up. I did this as a landscape shot, and I did this as a portrait shot. Now, at the time, I couldn't really see anything much in the sky at that point. I set the camera up. I mean, settings wise, I'm using my 16 to 35mm lens, which is an f2.8 lens, so I'm wide open at f2.8. ISO was anywhere from 800 to 1600. I had to keep changing it around a little bit, and shutter speed was anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds. So I got it all set up, took some photos, and the only way I knew that there was any aurora at that point was because I could see it on the LCD screen on the back of the camera. So I took some shots. I think in the first shot that I'm going to put up here, you can definitely see some columns of light that are beginning to form above the building. Obviously, I took a number of photos, but I've only really got a couple that I edited that I really liked. So, like I said, to the naked eye at that point, I really couldn't see very much. But having taken those couple of photos, I thought, okay, you know, this isn't maybe working quite the way I wanted it to. I'm going to go back down the path to Westwheel Owls, because I know down there that there are compositions that I like, that I can use. I've done them in the past. And so that's what I did. So I'm going to pop the couple of images up on the screen for you now that I shot from this location for you to have a look at. And whilst you're having a look at those, I'm going to relocate down the path to Westwheel Owls, which is where I then took the next set of shots. So we've made it back here to Wheel Edward, which is the engine house you can see here behind me. And this was my next stop on my Aurora travels on that May 10th night. So I came down here. There were a number of other people out and about, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too busy. And by this point, I could literally see shafts of light in the sky, just white light. And what also looked like a bit of a haze, a bit of a mist, but that mist was actually the aurora. And I realised this when I pointed my camera at it and started taking photographs. Now, Wheel Edward here, there were some lovely shafts of light coming down at an angle, and just out here on the horizon, we had the moon setting in the background. Now, a number of people, when I posted the images, said to me, that's the sun. Why is the sun in the back of the image? How can you take that fact? It's not the sun, it was the moon. Luckily, it was only a crescent moon that night. Had it been a full moon, I don't think we would have got the same quality of images because the sky would have blown out. But when you see that image in a minute, when I pop that image on the screen for you, it's the moon. And because it's a crescent and I'm not set up to actually shoot the moon itself, I'm shooting the aurora, the engine house, etc. It looks like an orb, and it does look like an orangey sort of orb in the sky. So I can see why people got confused, but it definitely was not the sun. It was very definitely the moon. But like I said, by this point, I could see shafts of light coming down here over the top of Wheel Edward. So I took that shot, and then I buzzed the camera around, because when I do turn the camera around in a moment, you'll see Westwheel Owls here on my left-hand side, which will be your right. And I could see these shafts of light in the sky in kind of almost like an arc over the top of the engine house. What I didn't realize until I turned my camera around and actually took that shot was the different colors in the shot. You had some lovely purple colors, and you had some oranges and some yellows and some hint of green in there. Absolutely beautiful. So I'll turn you around a moment and show you that view, because I'm stood in the lane where I actually took the shot. I think in fairness, where I actually took the shot from is about here somewhere. It's a little bit closer to where you are, just to incorporate that view. So let me just buzz that camera around a minute and we'll show you what we're looking at. So there we have the beautiful Westwheel Owls engine house, and I'm sure those of you who are Poldark fans will recognise the engine house as Wheel Leisure. They obviously doctored it a little bit CGI, but that is the engine house. Now in the background there, you can see the head frame of Alan's shaft. And we'll get to that in a minute, because I did go over there and take some photographs. But as I said, unfortunately, the iPhone that I'm shooting this on, the camera isn't as wide as my 16mm lens that I was shooting with that night. So I've done the best I can to kind of give you the same sort of view, but I've had to push you back a little bit, and you're missing some of the sea out there for a start on the screen, because in the photo that's coming up in a minute, the sea is out there, so you are missing part of it. But as I said, you had this wonderful, almost like an arc of aurora over the top of this engine house, and just some phenomenal colour. just, you know, I don't really have the words to describe it. You know, it's one of those things that I never expected to see from here in Cornwall. I mean, the Northern Lights this far south, it's just insane, and it was completely mad. Like I said, coming back to that sort of mist, that sort of haze that was is the Aurora. Whilst I was actually here, a friend of mine rang me up. She's a photographer as well. She says, what's all this about the Aurora? She said, I can't see anything. All I can see is a mist. And I said, point your camera at it, or point your phone camera at it. Just point a camera at it. And she went, okay, hang on a moment. There was a moment of silence. Then there was a, oh my God, because there it was on the screen. Suddenly she could see it. I said, yeah, that mist, it's not mist, it's the Aurora. That is the Aurora. Let's go out and shoot it. I was in my WhatsApp groups and all sorts. Get outside somewhere dark. Go and look at the sky. Point your phone camera up at it. Absolutely incredible. So there was a couple of other photos that I took of this engine house that night. One in particular I took as a portrait image from further down, looking back the other way. And again, the moon is in that shot just to the right of the engine house as you're looking at it. And some sort of 4x4 or something came down the lane here with its headlights on and partially illuminated the engine house. That's one of the shots I'm going to put up in a moment for you to see. But it added a little bit of something to the actual image anyway, because it just helped bring out some of the detail of that engine house. Again, similar settings to what I had previously. ISO between 800 and 1600, wide open on the 16 to 35mm lens at f2.8, and 10 to 15 seconds of exposure. I found I was chopping and changing a lot of the settings, so I can't say to you this is exactly what I did. I was chopping and changing, but it worked really, really well, I think. And well, take a look at the photos. Let me know what you think. And while we're doing that, I'm going to relocate down to where I then took the next image. So now we come to the head frame at Allen Shaft. And this one was a bit of a random opportunity, really. I just happened to point the camera at the head frame and take some shots. And again, over the top of the head frame, we had these columns of light that were looking a little bit softer now than they had done in the previous images, where they're quite sharp and they stand out really well. This was starting to soften a little bit, but the color, I think, was starting to intensify a little bit more. And in fact, the stats on the Aurora apps was backing that up. The stats were rising, the color was intensifying. There's actually a shot that I took of the arsenic stack, which is actually behind you, where the red is so intense it looks as if the gates of hell have opened. And I've never really been able to use the image because I just can't seem to get it to work properly. But this worked really, really well. Some lovely purples in there, some pinks, a bit of orange in there. Funny story, as I was walking down this path, a chap came out from the gate over there. Tim, if you're watching this video, hope you're keeping well, mate. And I don't know to this day how he knew it was me, but he walked out of that gate, walked up the path, and went, "Hello, Marcus." Just like that. How he knew it was me in the dark with just my head torch, no idea. But I didn't realize it was him until he spoke. So, you know, he was doing far better than I was doing. So, anyway, I'm going to pop this image up on the screen now, and we're just going to go over here to where I took pretty much the final image of the evening from Batalic. So we come to the site of what I would consider the final successful Aurora image that I took at this location. And I think this wall and this window made a great feature, to be perfectly honest. Again, much like with Allen Shaft over there, I think the columns of light that you could see in this image are much softer, but the colour is a lot richer. There's certainly a lot of pinks and purples in there, a little bit of orange, maybe a bit of yellow, but definitely the dominant colour in there is the pinks and the purples. It was just an incredible evening. It's, again, you know, I struggle to find the words to describe what I was actually seeing. And I never once thought that I would see in my lifetime the Aurora here in Cornwall, to actually be able to photograph it here, particularly here in West Cornwall. You know, it's absolutely incredible, an incredible experience. And like a lot of photographers, I've been very fortunate over the last 12 to 18 months to be able to go out and shoot these night skies and see this aurora, and share it with you guys. Just, you know, I mean, it is hard to put it into words. It's you know, I found being out here under that sky to be quite an emotional experience, to be perfectly honest. And I wish really I'd been able to film it at the time so you could actually have seen what I was seeing. But the iPhone that I shoot on the low light capability is pretty poor. But there we go. So anyway, I'm going to pop the image up that I took here for you to take a look at. And then there's just one more thing to talk about. So I hope you've enjoyed those images that I've shared of the aurora over Batalic last May. It's hard to believe a year's gone by already. But that wasn't the end of my evening. I decided basically that I'd done all I could here. I'd gone from across at Cape Cornwall, the Canadajack Cliff Castle, Westwheel Owls, across to Allen Shaft, and then down here to the ruins on the top of the cliffs. And I decided that wasn't really anything more I could do here. So I decided I was going to relocate. And I decided to head for Godrevy. Two birds with one stone. It's on the way home and it's a beautiful location. So I headed for Godrevy, and again, I wasn't disappointed. The colour was absolutely incredible. The shafts of light in the sky were insane. And yes, of course, I've got photos of that, and I'm going to pop those up in a moment for you to have a look at. So take a look at those photos and then come back to me. So I hope you enjoyed those Godrevy images. I had a great time shooting those. That was really good fun. The shot of the lighthouse taken from the cliff top, I figured that if there was people out there, then most likely they would be on the beach. And I didn't really want to go down on the beach and disturb anybody who was already set up. I mean, when you're walking around with a torch and what have you. And I think this is something people don't consider when they go out at night doing astrophotography sometimes, because I've seen this over and over. People rock up with a light, and that light really does impact what you're trying to shoot. So if you are going out at night trying to do astrophotography, please do give some consideration to people who are already out and about and set up and shooting. As I said, I've been lucky enough over the last 12 to 18 months to have shot the aurora on a number of occasions. And of course, I've got a decent selection of images now. So what I'm going to do is, after I finish talking to you in a moment, I'm going to put those images up on the screen to have a look at. I've broken them all down into sections, and I've put up information as to where they were shot, the date, the times, and the settings that I was using. You'll typically find me shooting wide open at f2.8. The ISO does vary. What I discovered with the aurora when I was here is that it's like shooting under a very soft moonlight. And so you can generally, if it's strong enough, you can reduce your ISO. So likes of here, I was shooting at anywhere from 800 to 1600, whereas quite often when I'm doing astro, I could be shooting at ISO 3200 to 6400. So it goes to show you the difference that the light of that aurora actually makes to your images. But you know, if you're going to go out and do this stuff, just go out and shoot, just go out and practice and enjoy it, and make the most of the experience. So, like I said, I've got some images to pop up on the screen in a moment. Please do like, subscribe, share the video with your friends. And also, I'm after some advice on a vlogging camera, because I can't keep doing this on my iPhone. So if you've got suggestions on a really good vlogging camera that I can use, probably not the Osmo Pocket 3, because I think it's probably a bit fragile, and I just think I'd end up breaking it out in the environments that I go out into. So if you've got suggestions, leave them in the comments. It'd be great to hear them. Take a look at the photos. Thank you very much for watching the video.